So we've got Derek in Michigan who wants to talk a little bit about the Rapture coming soon. How you doing, Derek? You're on with Matt and John.
Thanks for having me, guys. How you guys doing?
Well, not too bad.
Yeah, not too bad. Pretty good here.
It's good to hear it. Yeah, I would just like to talk about the coming rapture. I mean, with all that's been happening in the world, it's kind of crazy that this is the only disease in history that ever shut down the entire planet. And you know how the Bible speaks of wars and rumors of wars and pestilence and all this other end time stuff. I mean, it's all coming to pass. So my question is just, I mean, what are you guys going to do when the rapture actually comes? I mean, will you guys believe that God is this then, or will you believe what the government tells you, which is probably going to be something about aliens?
Well, so first of all, I mean, you don't think that this is actually the first time that we've experienced like war and disease and everything run rampant. I mean, the Spanish flu of 1917 and 1918 was pretty prevalent across the entire world. The bubonic plague,
lasted 3 years. The world hasn't shut down, by the way.
No.
Otherwise,
it
John and I would be here doing a show.
But I mean, that's just one example of how all of these things that seem to be coalescing together and are signs of the rapture. I mean, my point is that these things have happened all throughout time. So I'm kind of wondering what distinguishes this particular set of events from previous events that match the exact same end times prophecies.
Yeah, I was in
it's global. It's the whole world. It's just not like one country, you know. It's the entire
world. New Zealand's already dealt with COVID and moved on. It's not the whole world, and the whole world hasn't shut down. Meanwhile, I was in Oakland, California for the last attempted rapture that Harold Camping was claiming. So if you take a look at it throughout history, on a regular basis, Christian eschatologists have been claiming that the rapture is imminent, and every time they've been wrong. Now, if it turns out they're right this time, then I will be surprised. No, I don't believe just what the government tells me. The time to believe in something is after there's evidence for it. And so the time to believe that a rapture has occurred is after there's actually evidence for it. Until then, it's just a bunch of doomsayer stuff from people who can't demonstrate the truth of anything they believe with regard to their God.
Well, you don't consider the Bible evidence?
No.
Yeah, so the Bible contains claims which would count as anecdotal evidence, but it's not like the Bible is sufficient evidence to justify belief in a God or anything. Otherwise, we'd have to say the same thing for the Quran and the Bhagavad Gita and whatever other ancient holy texts people want to point to. The evidence for God has yet to be demonstrated.
Well, I've just placed my faith on the Bible. You know, I believe the Bible is true. Everything in it.
Everything in it? Everything in it. Everything in it's true. Have you got a preferred Bible?
Yeah.
Which one?
The Bible.
No, which version of the Bible? I got 5 of them sitting next to me. I was just going to have you pick.
The James Bible?
Well, it would be King James, but you know, I just didn't know if you had a preferred Bible, like the NIV or.
Yeah, my bad.
Do you think that it's okay to own people as property?
No, I don't.
Because the Bible says it's okay.
Yeah.
And you just said that you thought
it was. I don't know.
No. You said you thought everything in the Bible was true, and I asked you if it was okay to own people's property, and you said no, but the Bible says it is.
Yeah, what I'm saying is I think it was true back then.
So once upon a time, it was okay to own people as property and beat them? That was okay once upon a time?
Maybe back then it was a different time back then.
I realize it was a different time. I know how fucking time works. The question is, was it okay? Was it morally permissible to own people and beat them?
Not now, but back then, who knows? Until we get a time machine.
What do you mean, who knows? What do you mean, who knows?
Sure.
Let's jump in a time machine, and I'll take you back. Would you willingly be a slave in those ancient times under the rules laid out in Exodus 21 and Leviticus 25? Would you willingly be a slave under those rules?
Oh, no, if I lived back then, I wouldn't be a slave.
No, you would be. You don't get any choice in it. You're bought and sold. You're property.
I'm curious, why do you think you wouldn't be a...
Hey, I didn't really call to talk about slavery. I called to talk about the rapture.
I know. Do you think men and women should be considered equal? Because the Bible doesn't. Do you think that there was actually a Tower of Babel where God came down and confounded all the languages? Because that ain't true.
Well, I don't know if it was true because I wasn't there.
You don't get to say that. You just told us you believe everything in the Bible's true, which means you now have to stand by the Tower of Babel and a global flood and trying to get every fucking animal on the planet into one big ass boat and every other ridiculous anti-science thing. The fact that Genesis gets the order of creation events wrong. You now have to stand by all of that. You have to stand by Abraham attempting to sacrifice Isaac and then stopping. You have to stand by Samson losing his strength when his hair gets cut. You have to stand by all of it because you had the audacity to suggest that everything in the Bible is true when I'll bet you don't even know what's in the Bible. Have you read it?
The only things I know about the Bible is what I was taught in church.
Yeah, so you haven't even read all of it, have you?
No, I listened to my pastor speak.
Yeah, maybe you should stop doing that. Maybe you should start investigating things for yourself. Because I used to be somebody who just listened to my pastor. I was going to be a pastor. And then what happened was I read it for myself. And I also learned about the nature of evidence and science and how we can know reasonably what is and isn't true and how the stuff in the Bible, like talking snakes and donkeys, isn't likely to be true, and that you should not believe that people have been resurrected from the dead until you have evidence for it, not just someone claiming it in a book. Who wrote Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John?
I know those guys didn't write it.
Yeah. And so, but do we know who did? Do we know who did?
Not to my knowledge.
Not to anybody's knowledge. Those books we have no original copies, so we don't know what the originals say. We have no idea who wrote those books. And so what we have are copies of translations of copies of an oral tradition that was handed down over a period of time. If somebody came to you and told you that they would like for you to give them 10 to 20% of your income for the rest of your life, and that they want you to live by their rules, and when you ask, why should I, they hand you a book that is copies of translation of copies of stories that are told, and you have no way of verifying who wrote them or investigating any fact within them, are you going to do it?
Well, is it going toward a good cause?
What is a good cause? If it's just going to the church, that's not. See, here's the problem. In the United States, where churches have de facto tax exempt status, churches don't have to open their books. They don't have to tell people how much money they're bringing in. They don't have to show how much money goes elsewhere. And so while some churches do operate charities, you don't know how much of your dollar gets to the people in actual need. Sometimes the overhead can be as much as 98 cents per dollar, which means only 2 cents of what you're giving is going out to the people in need. But you'll never know what the actual amount is because churches, unlike other nonprofit organizations, don't have to open their books, which is why the Mormon church can be rich as fuck and own Coca-Cola and hotels and everything else. And the Catholic Church can have magnificent works of arts clogging up a big empty freaking building and charge people to come see it instead of actually feeding the homeless. Do you know how many homeless people? Do you know that we could end poverty and homelessness throughout most of the world just by liquidating the Catholic Church, using those buildings to house people who need places to live and giving that money to support the effort?
No, I do not know that.
Yeah. Granted, I don't think you're a Catholic, but So you probably don't have as much.
No, I'm born and raised Christian.
Well, Catholics are Christian.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm just saying you would probably be on my side if I decided to say, hey, let's liquidate the Catholic Church and the Mormon Church. You'd be okay with that because you're not one of those denominations, right?
Right.
Cool. We appreciate your support. I don't know, John, I kind of dominated that one. Sorry, I was having fun. Did you want to talk to Derek about something?
Well, so I know that he was really wanting to talk about the rapture. Obviously, I'm not in agreement about the whole Bible evidence kind of thing. You were saying that just basically all the Bible.
I just gotta say, I do not know what I just agreed to, but I feel like I just sold my soul away.
That's good because you don't have a soul, so you don't have to worry about selling it.
Yeah.
But we do.
No. Okay, I'll let John handle this. Please prove to John that we have a soul.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I think John had a question for me first.
That's a nice dodge.
Now I'm more interested in your evidence for a soul.
Well, near-death experiences, people who have actually died and come back to life.
So how do you know that those experiences were actually had while they were supposedly dead and not just in the space around brain death or whatever you want to consider them to be dead, at whatever point you want to consider them to be dead? Because we really don't even understand like what the brain goes through exactly during these times. We know that it's very traumatic and that they are likely to have what they feel like are very religious experiences. But I mean, you can't actually state any kind of evidence that shows that these people were having these experiences while they were clinically dead.
Yeah. When your brain wakes up.
You got the witnesses, which you can ask, and you also got the doctor who verifies that the patient was dead.
So, Derek, no doctor can verify that a patient died, went to heaven, and came back. That's impossible to verify. There's no witness that can verify that a patient died, went to heaven, and then came back. What we can do is look at the claims of people who claim to have died and gone to heaven and come back. On a number of occasions, they've admitted that they lied. On other occasions, there's no evidence that they can do it. And we've tested near-death experiences. And so, like, for the people who claim that they're floating above their body and everything else, you can put a sign on top of a cabinet in the room that can only be seen from someone floating above the room. It can't be seen by anybody down there. And you can put a note on that sign. Curiously, we've done that. To date, no one has ever been able to tell us what's on the note.
Yeah. Well, what about the cases where the spirit lifts up and he can see what everybody's doing? I'm talking about those cases.
There's been no cases where anybody can demonstrate what you're saying. Here's where people get confused. If my brain is starved of oxygen as I'm heading towards death, it starts to malfunction. If I die and I'm revived through CPR, they bring out the paddles, whatever else, my brain gets back to normal. And the first thing my brain needs to do is say, wow, there's a gap in my timeline. What happened? And curiously, we human beings fill that gap with stories that are very similar, but they're only similar to other stories that we've heard. Or the religious people don't tend to have, it's not like Catholics see Buddha or Buddhists see Jesus as a norm. People tend to see the religious iconography they're associated with. Catholics tend to see Catholic iconography. Baptists tend to see Baptist iconography. So it's much the same way that if you look at alien abduction stories, once upon a time back in the 40s and 50s, aliens were robots or big monsters or anything else. Eventually we get to a point where they're all almond eyes, the round big head over the top, the thing that you would expect after seeing Close Encounters of the Third Kind. All of a sudden, stories begin to merge. As soon as they start getting reported, all of a sudden people are reporting the same things. Do you believe, Derek, that people are being abducted by aliens with almond eyes and big gray heads. Do you think that's happening?
No.
Okay. Do you realize that the evidence for alien abduction is not only more accurate and reliable and less preposterous than the evidence for a soul or a god? Because with aliens, we're not claiming anything beyond the natural. With souls and gods, we're claiming something supernatural. So by definition, alien abductions are more plausible than a god, and yet you don't believe alien abductions, but you will believe near-death experiences.
Wow, well, thanks for the information. You guys have really given me a lot to think about. I'm sorry we didn't get to discuss what our nation first called for, how the rapture in the Bible links up to what's happening today. But yeah, you guys give me a lot of things. Thanks.
Sure, thanks. And just so you get an answer on your rapture question, if a rapture happens and is verifiable, then I will believe it. Absolutely.
So you're saying when the rapture happens, because I hate to say this, Matt, you're a good man, but you're going to be left behind, obviously.
Depends on who you talk to. I have a pastor. When the rapture
does happen, you will turn to Christ and won't take the mark?
Oh, no. I won't turn to Christ at all, but I'll definitely believe that the rapture happened. Meanwhile, there are pastor friends of mine who believe once saved, always saved, who think I am going to be raptured. And that'll be a bizarre set of circumstances.
Yeah, I'll be raptured too.
Yeah.
So how old are you? How old are you, Derek?
I'm 30.
30.
I'm 30.
So how old, like at what age do you think you would finally say, you know what, like if at 40, by 40, the rapture hasn't happened, will you stop believing? Or how about 50 or 60? At what age will your prediction about the rapture finally be voided?
Wow, that's a really good question. I've never been asked that before. I would say about 45, because it's about 5 years before I hit 50, and then it's all downhill from there.
Well, thanks, because I'm 51, so, bite me for saying it's all downhill from there. But I'll tell you what, Derek, set yourself, do you use like Google Calendar?
I have an Alexa.
You can do that. You can go set yourself a reminder for your like 45th, 46th birthday, and then reach out and call us again then, if we're still on the air, or send an email acknowledging that your predictions about the rapture were the same nonsense, not true thing that's happened with everybody else who's predicted a rapture, and that now you're free of superstitious beliefs.
Yeah, you're right. I guess I won't figure that out till I'm 45. But yeah, thanks for the call, guys. I really appreciate you guys taking my call.
Yep. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for checking out this clip for The Line. While you're here, hit that like button, hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and then share this with that bitter uncle of yours who loves talking about the good old days.
Hello, I'm Jimmy Snow, Pokemon Master and executive producer on The Line. Would you like to support a specific show on The Line or The Line in general? There are special tiers on our Patreon and in our channel memberships. You can do just that. By the way, you could consider leaving a super thanks down below. You could also like, subscribe, and leave a regular comment. All of these are great. Now, I'm going to get back to crushing loneliness, but while I do that, why don't you check out one of these?